students. I hope that you are having a good day. I know that this is a little bit weird, so we are just going to try and get something accomplished today, even though I can't be here. So, what I'm going to have you guys do, you've already taken your quiz for the day. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do your notes for the day. You made an organizer yesterday, which is what we are going to use. And you can see that the organizer is taped up on the board, and I want you to use the very back side of the organizer to take your notes. So you can see I want you to use this side that has no flaps on it, okay, the very back side, like flip the whole thing over. So, what we're going to talk about today are order of operations. So across the top of that back side of your organizer, you're going to use that one sheet of paper, like a normal sheet of paper, to take your notes. Okay. So the first thing I want you to do is just write across the top, order of operations. Order of operations. The next thing I want you to do is I want everybody on their own, without anyone looking at their paper, to solve the following problem next to that. So here's the problem I want you to try. So try this and go in the corner of your paper, just like you see here on my screen. And here's the problem I want you to try. 4 plus 5 times 3 minus 2 to the third power plus 14 divided by 7. And what I want you guys to do is just take a minute or two, and I want you to sit there and calculate that problem, like I said, with no one looking at your paper, how you would normally calculate that problem. So go ahead, get your own answer. And if that wasn't enough time, then pause the video, finish your calculation, and then come back. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to look at everyone's paper in your group, and I want you to see what answers they got. And I don't want you to be embarrassed if you have different answers, because I've done this problem many times in many different classes, and it never fails. I at least have 2 to 4 different answers floating around the class. Now, if we didn't establish any rules in math, it would be like having English without any grammar rules. So what would happen is we would all do whatever we wanted with this problem, and depending on the order that we did the operation, so like when we added, when we subtracted, divided, different things like this, we would all get different answers. So they had to come up with a convention, a way that we would do the problems all the time so that we could all get the same answer. And what they do is they call that the order of operations. So what we can do to help us remember this is we can write down this acronym, and you can write it below the order of operations. Don't have it take the whole page, because I'm going to change the screen in a minute, and you're going to have to you're going to write things next to this. We're also going to do 3 examples, so just make sure you have enough room to do that. So what the G stands for, so the order of operations is going to be like your gems, okay? The G is going to stand for grouping symbols. And what this means is the first thing you look for in any sort of big kind of math problem like that you have to calculate is any sort of parentheses or any sort of brackets, anything that groups an operation together. And you can see those in our example problem around the 4 plus 5. That's what we would want to do first. So you literally go through the problem and you just do stuff that has parentheses around it first. So the first step in this problem I asked you guys to try would be to combine the 4 plus 5 because of the grouping symbols around it. So that would become 9. Okay? And then we would copy everything else just as it was. We're going to be really careful about being organized and not losing track of what we're doing so that we get through the problem correctly. The second letter in the GEMS, okay, is E, and E is standing for exponents. So that means after you've calculated anything that are inside the grouping symbols, you want to move on to calculate anything with exponents. So remember that exponents are like this 3 that you see right here, and that means, and we see it again here because we recopied it, and remember that that specifically means 2 times 2 times 2. So that's the calculation that we want to do next. And 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 again is 8. So this 2 to the third power right here becomes an 8 because that's what it gets calculated with its exponent. It had a negative in front of it. Everything else is going to stay the same. So I'm being really careful about not messing up this problem. The M is the next step of our GEMS, okay? And the M stands for both multiplication and division. So multiplication and division. And you do them like you're reading a book, okay? You need to just do them in order. Any problem that you come across from the left to the right side of the problem. So if I look at the problem we were working on, I can see that what I have left is multiplication, subtraction, addition, and division. I have all those operations left. What the directions are telling me in my GEMS is that since I've done the grouping symbols and the exponents, I'm going to do multiplication and division. So here's a multiplication sign. That means these two numbers are to be multiplied, and I'm just moving across my problem from right to left. So from left to right. So I started on the left. I hit the multiplication sign. I knew I needed to stop and do that multiplication. So 9 times 3 is 27. Okay. Then as I move across the problem, you can see there's also a division sign down here. So I also am going to complete 14 divided by 7. So the 8 is going to be untouched, and 14 divided by 7 gives me 2. So I did the multiplication and I did the division, but I did them in order from left to right. So actually a better way to think about this, you don't have to erase it, but if you wanted to see it a little bit more clearly, would be that we really did 27 and then everything stayed the same. And then we did 14 divided by 7, which was 2, and everything stayed the same besides that 2. So the next thing in our process of GEMS is our S, okay? And our S stands for subtraction and addition. Okay? So subtraction and addition. And again, we do this like we're reading a book, from the left to the right. So when I look at the problem, I first come across a subtraction of 27 minus 8. So if I take 27, I take away 8, I'm going to end up with 19. And then I have 19 plus 2, which comes out to be 21. So those of you that got 21 and you did the order of operations in the correct order, good job. Okay, put a happy face next to your paper. Be proud of your work. Those of you that didn't get 21, find the step where your work went wrong, cross it out, and next to it, correct it so that you have this correct work and you know how the order of operations work. Okay? And if you guys need to do that, let the sub know right now, and they can pause the video before we move on to the next page. So the next thing we're going to do is we're just going to do 3 examples of the order of operations. All right, so you're going to do examples. Remember, 3 of them need to fit on your paper. Okay? So whatever that looks like on your paper, on my paper, because of the space I have, I'm just going to do 3 right here across the board. So here's my examples. Here's number 1. 8 divided by 2 to the third power plus 12. Okay. So you want to look for everything the GEM says to look for. So first thing, you look for grouping symbols. We have no parentheses or brackets, so we're done with grouping symbols. Second thing we want to look for are exponents. we do have something with an exponent, and it's right here, part of this 2 to the third power. And again, remember that means 2 times 2 times 2. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 again is 8. So I do that part of the problem. Everything else, very carefully, stays the same. The next thing that comes after E in the GEMS is M, which stands for multiplication or division from left to right. So starting on the left side of my problem over here, I'm going to look across until I come across multiplication or division. So right away, the first thing I see is a division sign, so I'm going to calculate that division problem. So 8 divided by 8 would be 1. Everything else gets copied the same. There's no more multiplication or division in the problem, so I can move on to the S of my GEMS. Okay? And the S is subtraction or addition. So I have one operation left, which is addition, and I'll add the 1 and 12 to give me 13. Again, if you need to have this video paused to write that down, let the sub know so that they can pause it so you can write it down. The second example that we're going to look at is going to say 15 minus 3 times 4 plus 18 divided by 6. So, again, going through our GEMS. First thing is grouping symbols. We have no parentheses or brackets, so nothing that's grouped. Second thing is exponents. None of these numbers have a little exponent attached to them, so we have no exponents to calculate. So third thing is multiplication and division from left to right. So I'm going to start at the left side, work my way across till I see any multiplication or division. So the first thing I see is subtraction. I'm not there yet. Skip it. Then I see multiplication. Okay? So everything else is going to stay the same. There's this 15. There's a plus 18. I divided by 6. But I have to do this multiplication right here now. 3 times 4 is 12. And it's like the 3 had a negative in front of it. Remember, a negative times a positive results in a negative. So this is going to be a minus 12 instead of a plus 12. Now, I continue doing multiplication and division if I have any more to do, again, from left to right. So scan your equation like you're reading a book. Left to right, I see a division sign. Then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to divide. 18 divided by 6 is 3 because I know 6 times 3 would make 18. And everything else is staying just how it is with the correct sign in front of it. The next thing I'm going to do, since I have no more multiplication or division left in my problem, is I'm going to subtract and add from left to right. So when I go to do this from left to right, the first thing I come across is subtraction. So 15 minus 12 would give me 3. I rewrite the rest of the problem. I'm left with an addition problem. 3 plus 3 is going to give me 6. Again, if you need a minute to write that down, ask the substitute to please pause the video while you write it down, and then you can continue on to example 3. Our third and final example that has to go on our paper is going to be 3, oops, that doesn't look nice. Okay, it's going to be, in parentheses, 3 plus 2, and after the parentheses, there's a little exponent of 2, minus 4 plus 6 times 2. Okay. All right, so GEMS. First thing is grouping symbols. Now, here's grouping symbols, and you might be confused because attached to the grouping symbols is an exponent. In the order of operations, the G comes before the E in the word GEMS. Grouping is going to come before exponents. So don't worry about the exponent yet. Just worry about calculating what's in the group. So 3 plus 2 is going to give us 5. And then I'm going to copy everything else just as it was in the problem. The next thing I'm going to do is I have no more grouping symbols. Well, I kind of do. I left a set of parentheses right here. But notice that those grouping symbols are finished. because inside of them, there's no arithmetic to do. There's no math. I can't add, subtract, nothing. It's just a 5. Okay, so the grouping symbols are done. So then I move on to exponents. There's one right here attached to that power. So I want to calculate 5 to the second power. Remember that that means 5 times 5, which is 25. Everything else gets copied just as it is. There's no more exponents, so I'm ready to move on to the M in GEMS, which is multiplication and division, again from left to right. So I just start with the 25 and move across my equation from left to right, looking for multiplication or division. I don't find any till the end, where there's 6 times 2. So 6 times 2 is 12. They were both positive, so it results in a positive. And everything else stays the same. Okay? There's no other multiplication or division. So I'm going to move on to the S in GEMS, which is subtraction and addition, again from left to right. So I'm starting at the 25 and moving across my equation. So I first come across subtraction. 25 minus 4 is 21. I copy everything else how it is. And lastly, I have addition. 21 plus 12 is 33. Okay? And if you need to pause it to write that down, then go ahead and nicely ask the substitute to do so. Now, what you guys are going to do for the rest of the class, you have a workbook assignment to complete, and then there's also a homework assignment if you finish that. The homework assignment is on your agenda, and the substitute can also write it up on the board. Workbooks are the thinner green books that are located on the big side desk in the classroom. You are to take one. You are to write your name in it when the sub says it's okay. You're going to get up, you're going to go get one, you're going to write your name in it, and you're going to do the assignment that's listed on the board. You can write directly in your workbook. That's going to remain your workbook for the rest of the school year. So make sure you don't take it home with you. It just stays here, and when we're going to use it, it's going to be here, and I'll make sure that your names get a place on the books where you can clearly see them. So again, when the substitute says it's okay and the video is shut off, you guys are going to get your workbook, you're going to complete the listed assignment, and if you finish that, you're going to get an Algebra 1 textbook, you're going to copy down tonight's homework, and you're going to start working on that. Okay? And I will check both of those things tomorrow. So you're going to get credit for the classwork tomorrow if you have your notes and your workbook done, and you're going to get credit for the homework if you have the homework done that's listed on the assignment sheet. Okay, so I will see you guys tomorrow.